The only way out is through. I think this is a key phrase to keep front of mind when we consider the problem I'm going to discuss today, which is that of struggle, challenge, inertia, particularly whatever propensity we have towards self-pity and frustration generally when it comes to trying to bring our living lives to be this reflection of the soul, to make the practical everyday conditions conducive to soulful expression. This is a steady progress. It is something that takes consistent effort and a meeting of one wall after the other over and over and over again in many cases. And this is because we are constantly trying to overcome aspects of the astral nature, of the psychic nature, which stand in resistance to a soulful life. And that can be as direct as having, let's say, issues with vitality when it comes to trying to actually persist with some creative work that's under direct influence or inspiration from the soul itself. But in many cases, and for many of you, it will show up in ways to do with other aspects of the life that are simply demonstrative of things that haven't been integrated. For instance, distorted or toxic relationships that are taking up all this weight and emotional energy in the life, or a difficult living situation or work situation, whatever the normal day-to-day human struggles are that take up a lot of our psychic energy. So when it comes to overcoming the challenges, this is poignant following the discussion on Mars, because there needs to be an overcoming, and actually more specifically, there needs to be enough humility and sincerity to have a look at your life and go, where am I not occupying and what is holding me back? And when we ask those questions, sometimes it really can reveal to us the need for our active spiritual steps to be taken right now. May have nothing to do with the creative work of the soul in this instance, if you assuming that you even have access to those divine inspirations at this stage, or esoteric occult knowledge and study. So many people, I mean, at least in the field, let's say, of those who study the occult works and are more mental types in particular, there can really easily be what I call the knowledge trap, where the spiritual work is considered very limited in such a limited way that it's mostly just preoccupied with study or contemplation or reflection or meditation, which are all parts of development, of course, but to the degree that we use these things as a safety net rather than actually going, hold on, what's actually happening in my life right now? Where is there cohesion and synthesis, and where is there conflict? And where, in some cases, may there be conflict that I'm avoiding looking at, where it seems fine on the surface, but if I prod at it a little bit more deeply, it all starts to crumble away or reveal something a little bit disruptive in the life. If knowledge and research becomes these a safety net, as I said, then we can waste so much time avoiding what needs to be done. What needs to be done is always going to be reflected to you by the outer circumstances, or at least for most of you. You can get to a point, let's say, where the outer circumstances are pretty harmonious, and this is a tricky one too, because, as I said before, sometimes the situation can look harmonious and it's all fine, and then you start looking at something a little bit more closely and you go, hold on, maybe something, I can sense something there that's not quite resolved, and bam, and then all of a sudden that particular area starts to, because the unconscious is a bit like that. When you start putting consciousness towards something that you haven't been looking at, then it's like the shit pile gets revealed, or like looking under the rug and all the gunk is there, right? So anyway, coming back to my other point that I diverged from, you can get to a point where things are actually harmonious in the living environment and the physical life, in which case it can just be more about really fine-tuning the creative processes and the daily cycles in a more immediate, nitpicky, ultra-scientific way. But for many of you, if we look at your living life, there are going to be things going on in the family life, in the work life, in the relationship life, in the all of those things that are trying to, or when we look at them, will help to reveal those Martian, Scorpionic tests, battles that we need to overcome, ways in which we need to, in a tantric way, to whatever degree we want to consider this, a feminine or embodiment kind of way, Virgoic even, to impress and get into that area of the life. So you might be fine and dandy, you go, okay, I don't have any relationship issues, because I'm not in relationship, and I'm choosing to not enter the field of relationship because I'm going to focus on my spiritual life. Yeah. Or maybe you've got a whole bunch of issues within your personal psyche that probably would inevitably come up if you were to pursue a relationship with the intention of it being a vehicle or a container to support the unfolding of truth or the soul. So you're just using some notion of a spiritual idealism to avoid, egocentrically avoid really meeting yourself in a much deeper way. So that could be another example of how we might use esoteric knowledge in that vein to, as some sort of spiritual principle, as a way to move away from occupying or embodying into the living life. To whatever degree we say the feminine aspect has been atrophied or pushed aside in the last periodic cycle of our human development, that's one of those things there. It's like, I'm not going to deal with that, not going to occupy life and impress, take the responsibility, bear the responsibility of penetrating consciousness into my living life. That's really the proper occult meaning of the Christian mysticism, really, by the way. That's Pisces Virgo right there. That's where the Savior comes in. That's what it means to bear your cross, the cross of suffering. It's to really take on the responsibility of all of that which is going on in your life. So to whatever degree we use spiritual principles or knowledge or just a general blindness even, or just kind of sitting back and going, okay, things are pretty fine, but in such a case things may be pretty fine generally, but overall there isn't a whole lot of creative potency, or maybe there's a general impotency in terms of your overall ability to serve dynamically and be a contributor in the living life. And that's a sign of struggle right there, even though things may be kind of calm on the surface. If you're not actually able to really get into life and get moving, then there are reasons for that. And when we start pushing into those areas which have hitherto not been occupied, then all of a sudden, now we start meeting all the limitations. It's the idea in the Hercules, the 8th labor, when he goes into the Scorpionic labor, where he has to fight the Hydra, that before he can fight the Hydra, he actually has to wake it up. And prior to that, it's a sleeping dragon. And you think, oh, well, that's great, I won't deal with it. But it's there, right? The dragon is there. So it has to be woken up. And sometimes we can all have all these sleeping dragons going on. And to the degree that the sleeping dragon is there, we can go, oh yeah, things are fine, no worries. I mean, this is why many people who aren't moving with the soul, who aren't living the spiritual life, can have seemingly fine lives. To those of us struggling every day with all of these different things, you're like, why are these people they're just fine, and I'm like, but that's because it isn't until we start moving with the will to love, the will to be, the will to fashion, the Taurian word, our lives into a reflection of the divine. There's just so many things that we can't access in the unconscious. That's the mothering principle, Cancer, Virgo, shielding or protecting the Christ life until the consciousness is ready, the consciousness piece is ready to enter, and this is where we have to come up against all our different struggles there. We really meet our makers, so to speak, when we penetrate into these areas of our lives, and this is to accept the struggle, to enter with, it's again coming back to Mars, right? It's the urge to see and to push the personality and its psychic forces and its vital energies into the unconscious, into the living life, wherever it needs to go to overcome the challenges. And it's only through this attitude of continually being willing to meet these different facets over and over and over again. Once again, always being revealed by the circumstances of your life. So you're like, where do I need to go? Look at your life. What's going on? Don't go and disappear off into books or something, right? Look at your living life. It'll tell you right there. That is the reflection right there. We're only going to be able to overcome the challenges and to burn out all of these hidden forces of resistance that create that kind of castrate us psychologically, spiritually. We can only meet those things, those challenges, by choosing to carry our cross, penetrate those areas of the life, and in that start to hit the resistance, being willing to cop whatever pain we have to face, because that's what it's about. The way in which the ego, the lower self, wants to avoid pain, don't underestimate it. You have to be moving with an urge, that urge to truth and to love in a way that's just so rock solid in yourself, so that it can really override the desire to avoid pain, because that's that aversion thing. That's the body identification. Oh, I don't want to face that. Carry your cross, face the shit, be willing to cop the pain. And it's only through that process, it's a very feminine way here in terms of, like, you think of childbirth, it's like, I got to pass it through. You got to eat the shit, rub down and wear down those layers of resistance, wearing down the karma. This is where we can get all the burnings of the sizzling as we start burning through and eating up all of this psychic karmic material in the lower three worlds. It has to be done, and it's really about that attitude of sincerity and coming back to humility to look at what is going on. You need to be willing to really take 100% responsibility for all of that which you touch in your life, your relationships, your home, your family, all of these things. Your life will reveal to you in the challenges that are right there when you choose to look exactly where you need to go and what needs to be done, what needs to be overcome, what needs to be pushed through, what needs to be vivified, what needs to be reclaimed, all of these good and challenging things. Anyway, that's my rant for today. I'll see you next time.